Welcome, students. Today we're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. Before we begin, I want to point out that your note organizer is set up in a special way, and I don't want it to trip you up. So take a look at your note organizer document, the entire thing. You'll notice that there are basically three sections to it. The first section is a small section that discusses phases that a bill has to pass through in order to become a law. And the middle section is the largest piece, and it is the details, the particular information that I need you to remember. And then the last section, down at the bottom, is terms. And these are terms that are going to come up throughout the course of this lesson, and you may have to sort of refer back and forth or flip back and forth through your notes to get the right information down. So make sure that you kind of know where everything is supposed to go, and don't let the way that this note organizer is set up trip you up. Don't be afraid to flip back and forth and pause the video if you need to make sure that something is put in the right spot. So let's get going with the lawmaking process. How does a bill become a law? Before we get into the details, let's handle that phase section of your notes. There are three phases that a bill has to pass through in order to become a law. And two of those phases are legislative, and one of those phases is executive. One of the phases is that it has to be debated on and passed by the House of Representatives. So you can call that phase one. Second phase is the Senate has to do the same thing. They have to debate on the law, vote on it, and pass it. Those two phases are met. Phase three can happen, and phase three is when the President gets the bill from Congress and they sign it. So if those three things happen, those three phases are completed, the bill becomes a law. Passed by the House of Representatives, passed by the Senate, signed by the President. Those are your three phases. And within that are lots and lots and lots of details. So let's discuss those step by step. The place where every bill starts is with an idea. Ideas for bills can come from lots and lots and lots of sources, but bills have to be drafted by a representative or a senator to be submitted into either the House or the Senate. A bill can start in the House or the Senate. It doesn't have to go House, then Senate, then President. A bill could start in the Senate and go to the House. A bill could start in the House and the Senate at the same time. There is only one type of bill that has to start in the House of Representatives, and that bill, or that type of bill, is a bill that would raise taxes. Tax bills, bills that are designed to raise revenue for the government have to start in the House of Representatives before they go to the Senate. That's a rule in the Constitution, but that's the only type of bill that has to follow the pattern of House, then Senate, then President. Every other type of bill generally can start in either the House or the Senate, depending on what's going on. Once the bill has been drafted and submitted by the representative or the senator, it's going to end up in a committee, and the committees have kind of the first important job of looking into the bill and figuring out what it's going to do, and basically determine whether or not it would be a good idea for a law. So the committee that gets the bill is going to depend on the topic of the bill. If the bill is about the military, then a military-related committee will get the bill. If the bill is about farming, an agricultural committee will get the bill, and so on. It all depends on the topic. That's what determines which committee the bill will go to. Committees will then probably divide up into subcommittees and have subcommittees do the research on the bill, figuring out what the bill's intended and unintended consequences are going to be, and figuring out whether or not that's something that the country wants or needs. And of course, during all of this time, these bills can be revised, edited, amended in different ways, and the subcommittee gets sort of the first vote on whether or not the bill is a valid thing. And if that subcommittee likes it, they can vote to approve the bill and send it along its way. The full committee will then receive the bill from whatever subcommittee worked with it first. They can do the same sorts of things that the subcommittees did. They'll debate it, they'll propose amendments, They can vote on the bill and see how much support within the committee the bill has. If the bill gets enough votes in that committee, it goes on to the floor of the House or the Senate, wherever it happens to be. But if the bill doesn't get enough votes, then it will die in the committee and won't go any further. This is one of the first places where a bill can kind of be stopped in its tracks. Here's a term, actually a couple of terms that I want to make sure you know. You might have to refer to another section of your notes to get this information down. There's a couple of tactics that committees can use to keep a bill from going forward if they don't like it. And the terminology that's used to discuss this is this word pigeonhole. Pigeonhole is basically filing a bill away in a committee to have that bill get stuck so it can't go any further. So this might be used by a committee chair or the majority party to prevent voting on a bill that they don't like. If a bill gets pigeonholed, the way that you get it out of that committee is by filling out a discharge petition, getting enough votes or signatures in the House or the Senate to pull that bill out of committee. Make sure you know these two terms. In the House of Representatives, there's a special committee called the Rules Committee that would see the bill after it got through its standing committee and before it goes on to the floor of the House. So this Rules Committee sets the rules that bill will follow on the floor of the House, and these rules will include things like time limits for the debate, scheduling the debate times, rules for making amendments on the bill. The Rules Committee can also vote to stop a bill and have it go no further, and this is a place where the majority party in the House exercises a lot of control, and they can exercise their influence in a really important way. Notice that the Senate does not have a Rules Committee. There's no equivalent thing in the Senate, and this is because the Senate, the House of Representatives has got 435 people in it. A lot more people means a lot more chances for things to get chaotic. So rules for debate and things like that are far more important than in the Senate, where you're just dealing with 100 people. The Senate procedure is very similar to what we've been going through, with a couple of exceptions. The Rules Committee is a really big exception. The people who determine the rules that a bill will follow in the Senate in terms of amendments and things like that, scheduling, are the party leaders. So the majority leader is going to exercise a great amount of control in determining the sort of order of things and the possibilities for amendments on bills that get to the floor of the Senate. But if a bill in the Senate passes through all those committee phases, it's sent to the floor where it's debated, and it's at this phase, either in the House or the Senate, where you have what will hopefully be a large and engaging debate, and the whole group, the whole House or the whole Senate, comes out and votes on whether or not they want the bill to pass. The Senate can do something special that you don't see in the House, and it's called a filibuster. This is essentially a kind of an endless speech that is both kind of a stall tactic and sort of a torture tactic. And this is used by the minority party in the Senate to prevent a bill from going forward. They're essentially stretching out the debate so that nobody gets to vote on the bill. The way the Senate works, in order to end debate, you have to call for this vote called cloture, and cloture is a vote that requires 60 senators to end the debate. So if you don't have 60 senators who want to vote on a bill, you're not going to get that bill to move any further, and this is essentially how the Senate filibuster works. There is a special role for the conference committee at this point. If a bill passes the House and the Senate, but it ends up being slightly different, once it gets through either one of those phases, it has to be adjusted so that the House and the Senate approve the exact same bill. The conference committees exist to perform this role. They will pull some senators, pull some representatives, put them together in a conference committee, and they'll develop what's referred to as a compromise bill that both the House and the Senate can approve, vote on, and then send to the president. And this is when the president's action, or phase 3, kicks in. So the president has a couple of options when it comes to what they can do with the bill. So the first option is signing the bill. The president signs the bill, then it becomes an official law. The president can also veto a bill. To veto a bill means the president sends it back to Congress with sort of reasons why they're not signing it. Congress has the option to override a veto, but they have to have 2/3 support for this in both houses. So it takes a lot of representatives and senators to override a veto, but they can do it. The other option for the president is to not do anything. Presidents can't stall forever. They only have 10 days to work with a bill. So within a 10-day window, if the president decides not to do anything, one of two things can happen depending on what Congress is doing. If the 10 days expires and the president hasn't done anything and Congress is out of session, in other words, they're not working, they're not in Washington, D.C., they're back home or on vacation or whatever. If the 10 days expires and Congress is not in session, the president doesn't sign the bill. That's what's referred to as a pocket veto, and this is a bill basically dying because the president refused to sign it. And Congress wasn't in session. But if the president refuses to do anything, sign or veto the bill, 10 days expires, and Congress is still in session, then that bill becomes a law automatically, even without the president signing it. All right? So those are the high points. We'll talk about details in class. Make sure you can remember and understand the terms at the bottom of your notes. And we'll discuss this and address your questions when I see you in class. Thank you.